Hello, all you fine, beautiful people. I'm back here once again with a special reaction. Today I'm going to be doing a 3-song reaction to Frank Zappa on the 30th anniversary of his death, or at least at the time of filming this. I was hoping to get this out earlier, and just time and life seemed to get in the way, but I figured I'd still do it anyway. I know I started my 365 Days of Zappa series, and I kind of feel crappy that I never did finish it. So I thought, you know what better way? I promised to do something special on the anniversary of Frank's death, the 30th. So I thought, you know what better to do it than Strictly Genteel, Packard Goose, and Watermelon and Easter Hay. I think 3 songs that perfectly exemplify Frank Zappa to an audience. Strictly Genteel is the one we'll start off with, one that I think Frank was very fond of because, let's face it appeared on a lot of Zappa albums while he was alive. And even, I believe, on the orchestral albums, it does appear. So, just full 100%, anyone knows I'll reiterate, I've heard all these songs before, but I figured, you know what perfect way to mark the legacy of one of the greatest and, quite honestly, most progressive musicians of the 20th century. Here we start off with Strictly Genteel, live at Royce Hall in 1975 from the Orchestral Favorites album by Mr. Frank Zappa. So that was Strictly Genteel by Frank Zappa live at Royce Hall 1975. Fantastic song. This song perfectly exemplifies Frank Zappa, where you have moments of sheer brilliant melody, but you still have the Zappa insanity in there. And it works. And I've always been a huge fan of this song from the first time I heard it on 200 Motels. That I remember listening through most of that album, and I thought, you know what? I remember the first time I gave that album a listen, I was at work and I was just doing something and I had it playing. And I remember as soon as I heard the song, I'm like, it completely blew my mind. Listening to not only some of these most gorgeous melodies, the piano, the string section, and then you have these, but the drumming to this song is simply amazing. Like, I don't disagree when anyone asks who's the best drummer in the world ever, and it's like whoever was in Frank Zappa's band. Because you listen to the percussion, whether it be Jimmy Carl Black, Vinnie Caliuta, Terry Bozzio, Chester Thompson, I believe, drummed for him for a while. It didn't seem to matter who was in the band. Like, you had to be on the top of your game to play a Frank. And you're hearing these absolutely gorgeous melodies. I'm wondering if this is around the time, now correct me if I'm wrong, when Jean-Luc Ponty played with Frank for a little bit in his band. But man, I just listened to this and I'm like, this is just gorgeous. The whole melody, it works. Frank was always one of these guys that you look at it, would always kind of look at music as, how can I press the envelope? How can I get it to move further? Sure, at times he had his rhythm and blues, but there was still an element of Zappa to everything he did, and it just works. But anyway, we're going to go on to the next song from Joe's Garage. Features one of my favorite verses in music ever, and I thought, you know what a perfect time to bring it out and show how good a songwriter and really how on the money Frank was about a lot of stuff, whether it be politics, whether it be the state of the US would become, or in his eyes, what the music industry was. And so here it is, Packard Goose by Mr. Frank Zappa.
Maybe you thought I was the Packard Goose, or the Ronald McDonald of the New Boy Screws. Well, fuck all them people, I don't need no excuse for being what I am. Do you hear me then? All them rock and roll writers is the worst kind of sleaze, selling punk like some new kind of English disease. Is that the wave of the future? Oh, spare me, please. Oh, no, you gotta go. Who do you ride for? I wanna know. I believe you is the government's whore and keeping people's love is where you're coming from, and keeping people's love is where you're coming from. Fuck all the writers with a pen in their hand. I will be more specific so they might understand. They can all kiss my ass, but because it's so grand, they best just stay away. won't push the button, boy, and he went to the show. Better suck a little harder, or the shackles won't flow. And I don't need your thumb, so on your knees you run. Just tell yourself it's young, and suck it till you're numb. Journalism's kinda scary, and of it we should be wary. Wonder what became of
Hi, it's me, the girl from the bus. Remember the last tour? Well, information is not knowledge. Knowledge is not wisdom. Wisdom is not truth. Truth is not beauty. Beauty is not love. Love is not music. Music is the best. Wisdom is the domain of the whiz, which is extinct. Beauty is a French phonetic corruption of a short cloth neck ornament currently in resurgence.
want to. But as for the sucker who will write the review, if his mind is free and so, he'll put down his pencil and have himself a squad on the cosmic utensil. Go on, give it all you got on the cosmic utensil. Sit and spin until you ride on the cosmic utensil. He really needs to squat on the cosmic utensil. Now that I got that over with, I'll just play my imaginary guitar again. Hey, sounding pretty good there, man. Get down. Boy, what an imagination. Love myself better than I love myself. I think. What tone? Sounds like an elegant gypsy. What is that? Musk? It's hip.
So that was Packard Goose by Frank Zappa, and I will say, I said at the beginning of the song that it featured one of my favorite verses in all of music. And it also has some absolutely great guitar playing and musicianship on it. If you want to know the pure essence of really what makes Frank Zappa, is this: I don't care. I don't give an F about what anybody else thinks except me, because I'm in control of the music. And Frank Zappa, through the years, made it a mission to let music journalists pretty much to go F themselves. Especially, like, he had done many things, especially if you really want to know, Tinseltown Rebellion gives you a great idea of what Frank Zappa thought of the music industry, especially in the early 80s. Pretty much the music media, the reviewers, government, everything you want to know Frank Zappa is in this song. When he's like, maybe you thought it was the Packard Goose or the Ronald McDonald of the Nouveau Abstruse. Well, fuck all the people. I don't need an excuse for being what I am. Do you hear me then? Like, that is very poignant. Like, Frank, it was very outspoken about everything. You wanted to know what Frank Zappa thought. All you had to do was ask him, and he would let you know exactly what he thought. And all the rock and roll writers is the worst kind of sleaze, selling punk like some new kind of English disease. It's the way of the future, aw, spare me, please. Now, when this came out, I think punk had pretty much run its course. At least the first, I think, real iteration of punk, like the Sex Pistols, and that kind of had already come and gone by this point. I know the Clash was still around. They released, I think, their album later this year. And I think if I remember one of you commented once on a video by the Stranglers I did, and said that when asked about punk, the Stranglers was one of the few bands that Frank Zappa really liked. But I wonder how much of that had to do with the message behind the music and the fact it was a little more out there. But that goes into verse 3. Oh no, who you gotta go, who do you write for? I want to know. I believe you is the government's whore, and keeping people dumb is where you're coming from, and keeping people dumb is where you're really coming from. Fuck all them writers and the pen in their hand. I will be more specific so they might understand. They can all kiss my ass, but it's so grand. They best just stay away. Hey, hey, hey. Hey, Joe, who did you blow? Mo pushed the button, boy, and went to the show. Better suck a little harder or the shrekels won't flow. I don't mean your thumb. So on your knees or bum, just tell yourself it's yum, but suck till you're numb. Pretty much it was the guys who Frank was calling out, I think, the people here who were playing ball with this whole thing and being like, no. I think it's really interesting, and I remember, I'll read the next little bit and then I'll go on about journalism's kind of scary, and of it we should be wary. Wonder what became of Mary. Yeah, Frank was always on the thing, and I don't think I think he understood what everything meant. And he told a story of how he went to LA the first time, and he thought, okay, we're going to LA, we're like this badass band, like FU type energy. And he thought every band in LA was kind of like that, like F the Man, all this stuff. And he said as soon as he got there, he's like, I realized right away, none of these bands have balls. And I wonder how much that kind of soured Frank on a lot of things and record deals, dealing with people in the record industry. He was very on the point about, especially, I remember I seen an interview of him do this, and he said the late 60s, early 70s, where everyone thinks all this great music came out of it, really wasn't a great time. But he did say one thing that always stuck with me. Music of an experimental nature was allowed to be produced at mass market. And who were the guys running the record companies at that time? They were these hip young hippies. They were the cigar jumping old guys who said, well, it sold 2 million units. I don't know what it is. I really don't know what it is, but it sold 2 million units. Let's make some more of it. And he kind of talked about the entrepreneurial spirit of music and making money, and the artists making money off of their music and not being beholden to these record companies. And yeah, so then it goes in to one of my all-time favorite verses in all of music ever. I remember the first time I heard this, I rewound, like, I think the first time I heard this, I had a full album download of it, and I went through this song, and I replayed to the exact moment where this came up at least 25 times, because it spoke to me on such a spiritual level, where it's like, hi, it's me, the girl from the bus, remember the last tour? Well, information is not knowledge, knowledge is not wisdom, wisdom is not truth, truth is not beauty, beauty is not love, Love is not music. Music is the best. Wisdom is the domain of the wits, which is extinct. Beauty is a French phonetic corruption of short cloth neck ornament, currently in resurgence. That line, that whole thing, is very true. And just because you have the information, just because you have the knowledge, just because you have the wisdom, does not mean you have the truth. And what Frank is saying here is by saying music is the best. Music is the purest form of communication, of the sharing of ideas, thoughts. At least that's what I get out of it. And music is this sort of fragile thing that we need to really hold on to as people. And then he goes back into his pretty much talking about the reviewers and riding the cosmic utensil and going back to playing his imaginary guitar, which will lead into the next song, which a lot of people would say is one of Frank Zappa's greatest guitar solos. People want to know, does Frank Zappa belong in the pantheon of greatest guitar players of all time? I will point to many solos, but to me, there's just something about Watermelon and Easter Hay that is completely mind-blowing. And without further ado, here it is, the final song. Rambled on a little bit too much about Packard Goose, but here it is. Watermelon and Easter Hay, Mr. Frank Zappa.
This is the Central Scrutinizer. Joe has just worked himself into an imaginary frenzy during the fade-out of his imaginary song. He begins to feel depressed now. He knows the end is near. He has realized at last that imaginary guitar notes and imaginary vocals exist only in the imagination of the imaginer. And ultimately, who gives a fuck anyway? Excuse me. So, who gives a fuck anyway? So he goes back to his ugly little room and gladly claims his last imaginary guitar solo.
So that was Watermelon in Easter Hay, Frank Zappa. There's a reason why I chose this as the final song to react to as the final song I react to on this video. And it is an absolute, complete masterclass in not only guitar playing, and not only to have feel, but also be technically really good and still keep that feel. And because of one part of this intro from the Central Scrutinizer, saying Joe worked himself up into imaginary frenzy during the fade out of his imaginary song. He begins to feel depressed. He knows the end is near. He realized at last that imaginary guitar notes and imaginary vocals only exist only in the imagination of the imaginer. And ultimately, who gives a fuck anyway? So excuse me, haha. So, ha 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 ha. Who gives a fuck anyway? So he goes back to his ugly little room and he quietly dreams his last imaginary guitar solo. And if you ever, and I went and thought about this a lot, is if you were writing the perfect song for Frank to end this album on, because I know there's one more, but this is really the last of the actual story of Joe and Joe's Garage, and the guitar playing is exceptional. Just the repeating of notes and going over it over and over again, almost this meticulous fashion. And to also have this feel. Man, I remember the first time I heard Watermelon in Easter Hay and sitting down listening to it and being completely like Packard Goose, just mind blown at how good this whole 3 acts of Joe's Garage is, where some people say in rock operas or concept albums there's a little bit of filler on them to tell a narrative story. Frank Zappa took that whole concept and pretty much pissed on it and said the music can be both very pretty integral to the story. And I still believe that Joe's Garage is one of the greatest concept albums ever recorded. One of the best rock operas ever recorded. Start to finish. Like, that first act is a 10 out of 10. It's a masterclass. I know some people might not like the subject matter of the first act. I absolutely love it, or this album in general. I think it's really damn good. Watermelon in Easter Hay is, to many have said, is one of his greatest guitar solos, one of his greatest achievements in music. And with that line being the last imaginary solo, if you could pick one song to exemplify Frank Zappa at the end, how many people would bring up Watermelon in Easter Hay as one of his crowning achievements? A feel of technique, of tone. There's no BS in that song. There is absolutely none of the typical Frank weirdness in it. It's just shut up and play your guitar. And that's pretty much what Frank did. Some of the drumming and stuff underneath, as Frank always said, especially about playing live and soloing, he had no idea what he was going to do, but he knew he had a set time to do it. And he said, if you have an imagination and you have a very intuitive rhythm section, the possibilities are endless. And it's you against nature. And I think Frank proved that, at least in my opinion, he is one of the greatest guitar players. Not only guitar players, not only musicians, composers, one of the greatest songwriters of all time. How many can you say fit every single one of those categories? Like, where is music? The Beatles were influenced by Frank Zappa. Quite honestly, you look at Frank Zappa's music, it has transcended. Frank Zappa is probably the quintessential, whether he'd like to admit it or not, he is the quintessential head of prog. If you're looking at true, fundamental, 100% prog, you can make the argument it's Frank Zappa. And because Frank understood, I think, what a lot of his peers seem to miss, is that at the end of the day, the music has to be important, but also at some point has to rock. And I think Frank understood. And it also has to be beautiful, and it has to be melodic. And I love the music of Frank Zappa. He is the one guy that I look back on and say, we lost an amazing person to talk. Because I always wonder what Frank could have had a whole career resurgence in the 2000s through the Bush years. He would have had a field day with those. And even through about the last 10 to 15 years, he would have had a field day with everything going on. But anyway, that's my thoughts and opinions. I'd love to know what you guys think. Please comment down below. If you stuck around for this whole video, thank you so much. I want to hear your memories of Frank Zappa, what you think of Frank Zappa. To me, one of the greatest minds in music. He is definitely my top 5 greatest artists. I usually put it, for me, my favorite band of all time is Pink Floyd. Frank Zappa is number 2 for me. I would not have gotten into a lot of different albums or anything, or looked at music differently, had it not been for Frank Zappa, and especially this album, Joe's Garage. This is, like, I was always a Pink Floyd fan first, but I think what brought me to a more progressive musical style is Frank Zappa, and it is this album. Everyone asks, what's the gateway to prog? Joe's Garage. Some might say Overnight Sensation, some might say Apostrophe, might throw another album out there. For me, it's Joe's Garage. It's kind of one of those, just shut up and listen. And anyway, like I said, that's my thoughts and opinions. Thank you, guys. Rest in peace, Frank. I know somewhere he's looking. I know he's somewhere and he's kind of looking at everyone going, I fucking told you so. But anyway, this is me signing out. Peace.